And as we know, DORA is coming next year, and so now is the time for firms to do a gap analysis, see what they need to fix to make it work and stay resilient, and then evidence that to the regulator and their investors.
Today, I have the pleasure to welcome in the studio George Ralph, who is a Global Managing Director and CRO from RFA. Welcome, George.
Thank you for having me.
It's a very important milestone that you have reached last month, because you just received your PSF status from CSSF.
Yes.
So maybe it's the right timing to present what exactly is RFA doing.
Yeah. So we're a global partner to financial firms. We're 36 years old, historically very much focused on hedge funds. Then it's spread to the alternative investment community, so a lot of private equity clients. Globally we have 900 clients actually now at the moment, or 892 to be precise. And we deliver services to them from 14 countries. 4 or 5 years ago we made a decision to open up in Luxembourg to become the headquarters for mainland Europe. So our Luxembourg office up until last month was delivering services to firms that didn't require PSF. So very much hedge funds but without the AIFM, or PE firms where they were delivering the sort of headquarters services to portfolios. And a lot of that was in Germany, Paris, Amsterdam. Now that we've got the PSF, we can start delivering a lot more services to AIFMs and other regulated firms in Luxembourg. So it's very exciting.
So if I wrap it up in one sentence, you're basically a technology partner for alternative professionals.
Correct.
Very good. So one thing I would like to know is basically how can you help financial professionals, especially in the alternative spectrum, to remain technology compliant?
So there's a lot of components to that. And our key heritage 36 years ago is delivering sort of CTO and CISO advisory, CISO being Chief Information Security Officer, so focused on information governance, data and cybersecurity. And then CTO focused on application and infrastructure strategy, the boring technology bits like risk management processes, desktop support, procurement, that kind of thing. So the focus from all the regulators globally in the last 2 years has been on cybersecurity and very much resilience. Yes. I think right now we're in a unique position in mainland Europe, and specifically Luxembourg and actually Hamburg uniquely as a town, where people are encouraged to use public cloud. We've been specialised in that area since 2014. It was actually when I joined the firm, but it's just coincidence. So we do a lot of what we call DevOps work. We do a lot of automation in public cloud, very heavily in Amazon and Azure, very much focused on resilience, right? So proactive support and cyber, preventative technology, in case someone makes a mistake, you need to either clean it up or stop it from happening. And then the support and resilience around that to keep the systems on. And as we know, DORA is coming next year, and so now is the time for firms to do a gap analysis, see what they need to fix to make it work and stay resilient, and then evidence that to the regulator and their investors. So a lot of what we've been doing in the last 6 months, and I expect us to do more and more of this year, is around DORA specifically.
So if I follow properly, you can offer just pure consulting services, or you can also appoint a partner or a colleague physically in the office of your client for a day or a week or I don't know, a month.
So firms that we're talking to now, because we've only just received a PSF, they have an IT partner. But in Luxembourg, the IT partners, they tend not to have a compliance team. We have a compliance team dedicated for policies, procedures, regulatory technology challenges. So we've actually been working with firms that are using someone else for technology, but we're coming in to do a gap analysis and helping them fix those gaps and remediate.
Because you're so specialized in the alternative spectrum.
Correct. Our clients that have been clients of ours for years, and our global clients but have offices here, we do all of their tech. So DORA is already covered. It's been covered 7 years ago because it's a resilient system, they have policies. With those firms, we're now talking about policies and procedures for the usage of AI. you know, preventative technology for AI going onto the internet, staying in a tenant. So we're further ahead with those firms. They don't have to worry about DORA. It's already done. So I'm seeing more firms will start to talk to us to move all of their technology management and support to us, which will cover all of those bits in it. But up to now, and also firms before they can move to us are using us for that professional services and gap analysis and project work, I suppose is the answer.
Okay, so again, three poles here. Compliance, but as you said, once you've done it for a client, you can enable all the other clients. Cybersecurity, we'll talk about it in the next question, of course. And as you said, making sure that the systems are resilient, that they stay online during an attack or whatever happens throughout the year.
Yes.
So let's talk about the risk and the opportunities. When I heard about RFA the first time, I looked into it and my vision was, you know, cybersecurity was key. And when you think cybersecurity in Luxembourg, in the past 2-3 years, we had many brutal attacks with devastating effects. So how do you approach this type of risks? Is it basically being hacked, the main risk?
So the way people think about this high level, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is people, process and technology, right? The people is 99% of the reason you have a breach.
They're the guy clicking on the link.
On the link, or in a lot of cases it's an insider threat where they've intentionally taken the data. They've got a job at a competitor and they've given that data to a competitor.
No, that's a different category.
But this is still a breach. Okay.
Yeah, that's really...
And this is what DORA is trying to resolve as well by putting governance controls into data security.
Okay.
And people have not realized that yet, but you can see it in the small print, if that's right. So what we do is we train people regularly and test them for cybersecurity attacks, what to look for in emails, what to look for in smishing, so text messages, WhatsApp, all of that kind of thing. And then we test them afterwards, event-driven, it's random, to make sure that they've listened and learned. If they fail, they have to have more training. Okay. So it makes them want to pass because the training is not exciting, it's cybersecurity.
So that's the part where it's good, willing employees who don't want to click on the wrong link.
Yes.
But then you said before, there's some terrorists also sometimes in your ranks.
Yes. So that's teaching them also to spot people who are malicious in the organization, which is harder and harder with remote working.
Indeed.
So you then have the policy component, which is the written documents they have to sign when they join a business. And so we're working with a lot of firms in Luxembourg to improve those policies. Okay. But then also using technology to govern, audit and prevent the policies from being breached. So if it says, I don't know, a simple one like, you can't use your gmail.com when you're in the office because they're worried someone might email documents. And in the policy, they've signed that to say they won't do it until after 5 o'clock, maybe. Okay. Our technology will block that from happening, or in some companies, if they trust the staff, which I think is the right thing to do, we will just audit if someone's using it.
Okay, so you're measuring if the policy is properly implemented.
Correct.
Okay, but what do you do if the guy is sitting at home taking picture of his screen with his iPhone?
So we also have the technology component. Okay. The taking a picture with the iPhone is very difficult to stop. It's if you're using Outlook or a browser-based software, it's all down to the software that determines whether it can see that and blind it out. So when you're on your iPhone and you have the password settings, you can't do a screenshot of the password if you've revealed it.
Exactly, yes.
Because it's built into the screen of the iPhone, right? The technology.
Same with Netflix. You cannot print picture. You cannot do save screen of a print screen of a film.
Or a Pret subscription, I've discovered as well. So our technology, we have a lot of cyber tools. So we have things that are protective of individuals and the business. So we have what's called breach exposure monitoring, which looks at the perimeter of the office network, the company network, and it's searching the dark web all the time to see if the name or the domain name's coming out, right?
So very early detection.
Very early. Then we have something for individuals, which is your email. So if your password came out on the dark web now, you'd immediately be getting a message from us to tell us to change your password.
Okay. Everywhere, because people use it everywhere.
Correct. And actually, it's a good point because a lot of our education is to people, if it's not work-related, you have to use a personal email address.
Of course.
So many people use corporate email address for signing up to cinema tickets or anyway. So then we also have what we call MDR, EDR, which is managed detection response and endpoint detection response. And those two come together really as a pairing for proactive AI-based and machine learning-based alerting and monitoring. So the MDR sits around the network framework and the EDR sits on the endpoint, which is the E, and it's monitoring all the time your behavior of your device if you're a user. It's looking at your mannerisms. It's protecting you from malicious activity on your device. The MDR is protecting your cloud environment, Azure, AWS, Office 365, if you've got server infrastructure with bespoke software, the whole environment, and it all goes to our security operations center team globally, who are monitoring it 24/7, where we also use machine learning and AI to get exception alerts for faster reporting.
You want to detect some abnormal activities.
Exactly.
Okay. So what caught my ear is what you said. We have to trust employees, and we cannot go full paranoid. I think we could agree that if a guy is really motivated to hack, basically you're going to catch him as early as possible after the hack. But I think this is a very critical point, that all those systems, those policies, those training should empower employees. So let's move to the opportunities. With all those things in place, we know that Luxembourg has been thriving on compliance, on regulation. Do you think that for Luxembourg, this DORA and all those regulations are going to ease new businesses?
It's an interesting question because the SEC in America released new cybersecurity controls a year ago, and then they've been tweaking them as they go along. The FCA had something in July 2017 called GP16/5. I'm getting geeky now. Which talked about vendor due diligence, managing suppliers, resilience and risk management processes. Now, all three of the regulators, I mean, there's more, obviously, FINMA, etc., but SEC, FCA and CSSF have all focused on risk management frameworks. And you'd be surprised how little companies have a technology risk management framework. In fact, none that I've met so far in Luxembourg have one. And it's actually been a regulation for years. DORA's just reinforcing that. And what that means is it's explaining to your board a risk in technology, the likelihood of it happening, and the impact, which creates a score. So your board, you should be presenting once a month or once a quarter the top 5 risks in technology, and that determines what you do next to secure it or make it more resilient. If you don't have that, you're relying on a technologist to say, right, we should do this next.
Or you're always trying to fix the issues instead of enabling people or by anticipating. That's what you call technology compliance or governance, I would imagine.
That's one of the key components. You've also got policies and procedures that need to be updated regularly. You've also got compliance supervisory controls. So as a PSF, we're actually supervising our clients here, and we're now supervising our non-clients who have IT firms that can't do it to say, this is how many times someone's tried to hack them in the last 3 months. This is how many breaches they've had or not had. These are the reports from XYZ uptime stats. This is the patching status. So it's not exciting things, but they're reporting it to a regulator to show that they're stable and they're well resilient in their infrastructure.
Okay, so if I follow properly, I think that we can all agree that, of course, cybersecurity is on top of the agenda of any board anywhere in the world, but especially in Luxembourg, which is lagging a little bit. What you're advocating for is really a very much holistic approach where you use training, also technology, and you make sure policies are implemented. And what you believe is your advantage here is that you highly specialize on alternative investment. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any other specialized player in your field addressing IEF or this kind of players. Perfect.
And it's the heritage and longevity of our business that gives us that experience to help with the compliance. But also the big thing I've noticed here, and even 5 years ago, is everyone has traditional servers, but they're hosted in data centers, which they see as the cloud.
That is not the cloud.
But the cloud is the public cloud, where you get the benefits of automation, file synchronization, higher security measures, but people
Resilience.
don't know how to do that yet. So one of the things I want to do when we're now coming in hard into Luxembourg is to really educate the market into the value of public cloud and what can be done with it.
Absolutely. Maybe a last word about the name RFA. Why is it this name?
It stands for Richard Fleischmann and Associates. Richard Fleischmann's our founder.
How many years ago again?
36 years now, I think.
And he's still chairman of the board today. So
Yeah.
it's still an independent, privately held.
We're still privately owned. There's 4 of us who run the business. We're all it's very flat structure. Richard gets involved. We have a call every 3 days, all of us.
Yeah, when
It's
I called you,
close.
you were one time in London, one time in New York, and one time somewhere in the Netherlands.
I have the joy of the travelling job.
Perfect. So good luck with your new license. Congratulations. This is George from RFA.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.